something different from the President of the United States.
But again, Chelsea too is dressed up as her mother, and are making a very fine appearance here. Maybe they heard that Central New York is a little bit conservative, and they decided to dress that way.
Well, let's talk to one of the men, conservative or otherwise, who was among the early people to see the President as he got off the plane. Nick Pirro, Onondaga County Executive. Nick, it is a very special day for Central New York, is it not?
It truly is. A visit by the President and his family is always a special occasion, and when he got off the plane, we wish that they have a great time while they're here. It's a beautiful area, we all know that, and we want them to enjoy it too.
Safe to say that regardless of party affiliations, when this fellow visits, those lines kind of drop to the floor, right?
Oh, absolutely. You know, he is the President of the United States. Politics, there's another time for that. Today we welcome them and hope they have a wonderful time here.
All right, thank you, Nick Pirro, Onondaga County Executive, who was among the first, as you saw, live on News Channel 9 to meet and greet the first family as they left Air Force One here on a beautiful day to start a vacation. And what Dave Eichhorn and the rest of our weather team tells us, we're going to have more of this type of weather for this vacation week for the President and his family here in Central New York. If we had ordered the weather nicer than this, we probably would not have been fortunate enough to receive it. Receiving is what Central New Yorkers are now doing with the first family. And some of these people we know because we saw the line of traffic as we came in at mid-morning. We're here bright and early along Malloy Road, the main entrance to the 174th Fighter Wing Base. The sheriff's deputies had asked the vehicles to park on the shoulder of the road and allow regular morning traffic to pass by. And that shoulder traffic extended into nearby office parks until the gate opened at 9 o'clock, and the first wave of this crowd, estimated, I think conservatively estimated at 2,500, began to flow in for its chance to do this. Meet the President and First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton and daughter Chelsea. Depending on what their plans are after the State Fair, Nancy, I imagine one, two, or all three members of the first family could be taking one of the most refreshing swims of their life in Skaneateles Lake.
And they'll probably love it so much they won't want to leave. I was just talking to Assemblywoman Joan Christensen, who did speak with the President and Hillary, and she said in her conversation with the President, he talked mostly about Buddy the dog and how he loved the dog and how well behaved the dog was, and how excited the dog was to be in Syracuse. So we have another aspect of this story.
Well, Nancy, as a dog lover, we don't want to overdo the Buddy talk, but the point is, Buddy being the dog's name, dogs have a great way of bringing human beings together. And whenever the first pet comes along, gives us something else to talk about. Let's talk now about golf again, because earlier in this broadcast I mentioned that the woman with me now, Kate McKenna, president of the Syracuse Teachers Association, will be teeing it up Thursday morning with Bill Clinton at Lafayette Country Club. You probably can't quite believe this is going to happen, can you?
I can't. I'm hoping that everything, the skies are clear and nothing awful happens in the world. It's terrible of me to be so venal, but I really want to play golf with the President. It's going to be great.
And hit the ball a few yards.
I would like to be able to actually hit the ball off of the tee, and if I can do that, I'll be happy, and if it goes straight, I'll be even happier.
Are you of a mind to give mulligans and accept mulligans if the first tee shot goes in the woods?
You bet. And the deal is, for every mulligan, we get another classroom.
Run down your foursome with me Thursday morning at Lafayette.
David Duffy, Mr. Bragman, the President, and I, and Mr. Elliot Meltzer, John Mannion, and Terry McAuliffe. And I'm not sure how we're going to split out, but I think David Duffy and Bob Conjal also and I are going to probably be playing together. That's my understanding.
Two foursomes and you'll rotate.
And we'll rotate, first front nine, back nine.
Politics purely now, Kate. You got a chance to meet and the First Lady back in July when
Yes.
she came to Mike Bragman's home, and you got a chance to see the candidate, Hillary Rodham Clinton. Your impressions?
My impression is that this is a woman who is absolutely dedicated to public service, who is genuine through and through in her concern for setting a public policy that helps the most number of people, the greatest number of people. And for those people, especially children, which is something that's been part of her career path ever since she went to college, even before she went to college. So I think that as a candidate, she has a great deal to offer. She is really looking out for kids and what's important in our society. And to me, that's, kids are it. And she also has the benefit of all of these years of being involved in conversations that have to do with public policy for economic development and public policy for health care. And even though some people have said that that was a debacle, I don't think it was at all. I think it was the way we should have gone, and I look at the people who don't have insurance now, and I know it's where we should have gone. So I think that she has a tremendous amount to offer us.
Will she, in your opinion, be able to overcome the carpetbagger label that's been placed upon her?
Yes, I think so. Bobby Kennedy did it, and so did Jim Buckley. And if two men can do it, I don't see that this woman can't. I'm sure she can.
Kate McKenna, president of the Syracuse Teachers Association, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Dan.
No question where she stands on the candidacy of Hillary Clinton, and at this moment, no question, of course, where all of these Central New Yorkers stand on the opportunity to meet, to see face to face, and perhaps to reach out and grab the hand of the President of the United States, his wife, the soon-to-be official candidate for U.S. Senate from New York, and their daughter, Stanford University College student Chelsea Clinton. So much ink has been spilled and so many words have been written and spoken on television over the past year or two about the presidency of Bill Clinton, how, in the opinion of many commentators, especially those conservative commentators who say he has tarnished the image of the office, brought it down a few notches by his conduct. He now has a chance, I guess, in visits like this on pure vacation weeks to rehabilitate that image somewhat before he leaves office in 14 months. Let's take a moment now, since we saw Tom McDonald earlier, the man who has lent his home to the Clintons. Well, let's take a look now at the home itself. These are aerial shots of Tom McDonald's estate, which sprawls along the east side of Skaneateles Lake, a few miles south of the village. There's plenty there, boathouses, much lakefront for access for swimming and boating. And ever since about Saturday, we're told, 2 days ago, the McDonalds were asked to vacate. And they did leave their home. The McDonalds are staying down the road a little bit. These pictures, by the way, we had to shoot several days ago because the airspace over the president's vacation home is now, of course, severely restricted and off limits to anything but official air traffic. So that's your look at where the president will stay. But as we have mentioned, he is making no haste in working the crowd here at Hancock Field. In fact, he now appears without question to be working the entire length of the line. Those who have already met him are leaving, going home to call their relatives in other states and say, hey, guess what just happened to me in Syracuse? And the president soon will join the motorcade, which I've already lost count of the numbers of vehicles in it. It's been in place here since about 8 o'clock this morning, fully in place by 9:30, and it will make its way to the New York State Fairgrounds. Most of the rest of us, Nancy, have trouble finding a parking space at the fairgrounds. Not these vehicles.
Not these vehicles. Another little aside, I was talking to Mike Bragman's wife, and she says what amazed her was about Hillary, meeting her again and meeting some of these other people and knowing her crowded schedule and all the people that she meets, and that how she remembers. And she remembers the people that she met the last time she was here, and remembers little details about them. And
well, Nancy, you've covered politics and observed the passing scene for enough years to know that that is the hallmark of a great politician at any level, local, state, or national, to remember faces, to remember little stories, and then to make that person feel as though you're the most important person in the world.
Really, and you can do that, you can get elected, I think. And it's not an easy thing to do, to have that kind of a memory and that kind of an interest. And I guess you really have to be a people person, really interested in people, to remember them, remember their name, remember something about them.
Those who say they've been close to Hillary Clinton or seen her operate over the years say that's exactly what she's like. And she's going to need every ounce of that in the campaign against Rudy Giuliani.
I think so. You know, there was one person that I talked to that said that they were not a supporter of either Hillary or the president, but that didn't matter. They had come just to, because this is an event and because he is the president and for that office, and you can feel that, I think, can't you, in the crowd, the excitement out here?
There's no question. We mentioned a moment ago that the criticism that has washed over the president in the past year or two because of his conduct with Monica Lewinsky, his finally admitted conduct in the impeachment proceedings, that he has devalued perhaps the office and sullied it and tarnished it, and someone else will have to rehabilitate it when either Al Gore or perhaps George W. Bush or another candidate gets elected to be the next president. They'll have to fix the office. But the point is, it's still the presidency of the United States, and that office will always attract this kind of crowd and attract that kind of respect, no matter who holds it or what they've done.
And I think that's the way it should be in this nation, that an event like this is really apolitical, at least for the Syracuse area.
I will tell you, though, that, of course, as you well could imagine, I met one of the longtime members of the Air Guard here who goes way back in the military and was working with and at the Pentagon back in 1972 when President Richard Nixon returned from China. And at that time, the Pentagon's marching orders were to assemble an enthusiastic crowd at Andrews Air Force Base to welcome President Nixon home in 1972, and of course they did, and the wildly cheering crowd that met the president was guaranteed to be on television that night. There has been no such, as far as I can tell, such orchestration of this crowd. These are, as you said earlier, just folks who have gotten up early, arrived early, and decided to be here to meet the president.
Well, you know, I remember when President Ford came in 1976, and there was no such crowd for him. I can even remember when President Nixon came before he was president, and there was only two people over at Sayre to meet him, and that was me and my photographer.
How times change, and fortunes rise and fall.
That's right, and I remember when the candidate, Jimmy Carter, came to the Hotel Syracuse, and there was a fire that day in the kitchen. And that was the hubbub of activity, the fire just before the candidate for president arrived. And I remember when President Carter came after he was president, and someone in the Hotel Syracuse lobby, because he always jogged around the hotel when he was here, somebody thought he was a wrestler from the War Memorial. So,
looks in pretty good trim for a wrestler these days. And we're not really certain as to whether or not the avid jogger, President Clinton, will take a few turns in his running shoes when he's in Skaneateles. He couldn't ask for a much nicer place to log a few road miles.
And I'm sure that when he goes, the Secret Service will go with him, too. There's nothing he does that doesn't have that phalanx of Secret Service men with him wherever he goes. And notice in the crowd today, the Secret Service is watching over not only the president, but Hillary and Chelsea as well.
A reminder to our viewers that following our live extended coverage of President Clinton's arrival here at the Air National Guard side of Hancock Field, we will have at least a portion of our regularly scheduled News Channel 9 at noon, which will of course include more live coverage of the president's visit from the State Fairgrounds, where he is due next, and from Skaneateles, where he will make home base along the lake for the rest of the week to vacation, to relax, play a little golf as he ventures out tomorrow morning to Bellevue Country Club on Syracuse's southwest side, and then Thursday morning to Lafayette Country Club across town. And who knows, Wednesday right now is officially open, unofficially open too, I guess, which means the First Family could either hang at the lake, like any of us would do if we had Tom McDonald's estate, or go out to eat, run through the village, maybe take a day trip somewhere else. We just don't know. We'll be keeping an eye on it. You can be guaranteed of that.
I think a lot of people figure that maybe he would just walk the streets of Skaneateles, and maybe if they go down there on that day, they might get a chance to maybe meet him. So I can expect maybe a crowd in Skaneateles on Wednesday.
Well, I know that there will be a lot of people disappointed if the First Family doesn't take at least one stroll through the village, especially the shop owners who probably spent a small fortune in Windex this week getting those front windows ready. The bunting is up. The village, of course, is a spectacular little place any time of year, but they've decked it out particularly this week for the visit of the First Family.
And we can only expect what will happen as a result of this, that it becomes a major tourist attraction. People say, well, if it's good enough for the president, maybe it's good enough for us to check this place out. So Skaneateles may no longer be the big secret attraction that it always has been.
It's a secret perhaps outside of central New York. It'll be interesting to watch how the World News feature stories plug into central New York this week, and how our region is exposed to the rest of the world, to the rest of the nation. There'll be daily briefings, of course, as there always are. White House Press Secretary Joe Lockhart, who we normally see standing in the White House press room with that blue curtain behind him and the official White House logo, will be standing now probably with a similar background if they've brought it with him, but in some room at the Holiday Inn in Auburn, where the White House, the traveling White House, has set up shop for the press, because the Holiday Inn in Auburn is the only place close to Skaneateles that's big enough to handle that many people.
That's right there. And then I think a lot of places are also holding some of these staff members. I know the Hotel Syracuse has blocked off 90 rooms for mostly Secret Service people, and they'll be staying at the hotel when they're not guarding the president. So there must be even more than 90 that are actually with him.
And if you're watching this at home and have been enjoying this extended live coverage with us, you're probably aware, and we can remind you, that there won't be a lot of planned opportunities for you to catch a glimpse. This morning was the best. The State Fair, immediately following this, will offer a more limited opportunity, because it's an invitation-only luncheon, of course, at the Empire Room, where Controller Carl McCall will host the First Family, and we'll be getting remarks from the president and his wife. Of course, those golf visits are already set. If you're not part of the foursome, the foursomes, it's too late to join the party. The courses will be restricted to other golfers. Bellevue Tuesday morning, Lafayette Thursday morning. Wednesday, as we've said, is officially open, and then the two fundraisers that are on the schedule for Thursday are, of course, by invitation and checkbook only, at the Green Home on the east side of Cazenovia Lake, and then downtown at Mulrooney's in Armory Square. And otherwise, we expect that we will let the First Family have their vacation in seclusion, or as much seclusion as they would like to have together, in one of the most picturesque vacation spots, if we do say so ourselves, in the entire world. Who wouldn't want to say that this week? Well, we'll be back real briefly after a commercial break with more coverage here from Hancock Field, and of course News Channel 9 will take you live to the State Fair and to Skaneateles, where we're getting ready for a full week with the First Family. For now, this is Dan Cummings with live News Channel 9 coverage of the arrival of President Clinton, First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton, and daughter Chelsea for a week's vacation in central New York. We go back now to our regular programming.
This has been a special report from News Channel 9.